Hi, it's Sam here, and I'm back in the zone for a back workout. So it's going to be a heavy one today, I expect. I'm starting on landmine T-bar rows because I haven't done those for ages, and they're really good for the upper back, including the trapezius. I'm going to be mixing it all up to include the lats with some pull-down motions as well. So what you will see here again is a full back workout. It's going to be more extensive than last time. My last back video, if you're interested, was a beginner's back routine. So if you're new to this, that'll be the one to watch rather than this one. This one we're going hardcore, and I'm well rested. I actually bounced on the training session from yesterday to this morning, so should be fresher for it. I'm going to go all in on back and get warmed up now to catch you in a second. I've got 7 plates on this time. Here we go, set 1. So that went real nice, so I'm adding another plate. Got up to 8 plates, which brings us to 180 kilos in total. Here we go. Woo! Oh. Again, that was real nice, so I'm going to put a bit more on, put a 10 on, so have 8.5 for one more set. I've been watching all the old Ronnie Coleman videos in Metroflex Gym for inspiration for this. I find that I really prefer the videos that are most relevant to what I'm trying to do when I watch anything myself. So as it's growing phase, my heavy bulking season, I watch videos of mass monsters only, so it's like Ronnie, Marcus Rule, Gunther Schlierkamp, anyone that's huge, I'll watch it. That gets me in the mood for heavy lifting sessions like this. But I'd love to train somewhere like Metroflex and do these T-bar rows in the corner there. Last one. Yeah, not quite as good as those last 2 sets. I've worked hard on these and it's time to move on. So I put that 10 and all these 20s away. I'm now moving on to the hammer strength high row. I really love this machine. I find if I get the seat height just right for me, number 5 in my case, so I can get a really good contraction of the lats. So we're moving from the upper back more to the lats with this next exercise. It's one that I recommend to a lot of people. It's very user friendly and you can load up heavy on it. Yeah, that's real nice. In fact, I can put another plate on each side I was just taking it steady as I've gone that bit heavier on the T-bar rows, but it seems we're in for a heavy day all round. So I'm going to go ahead and stick another 20. So we got 100 kilos on each side. I get my breath back for set 2. I like to do both sides together on this. It eliminates any twisting that you get when you try and do one side at a time. But either is doable, you find your preference, but I find that I'm more aligned straight and it's more just my back working than the muscles in my core if I do both together, and I get things done quicker that way as well. Yeah, let's go. I can do another set with 5 on each side. Getting 9 reps there, and the equipment's wobbling a little bit, so I probably wouldn't go further. Probably pick a different exercise for going heavier than that, because I don't want the whole thing unstable. But before I do another set, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to explain the wrist wraps. So I'm always training with the wrist wraps for back, as I don't want my grip to give up before my back's fully destroyed on each set. So mandatory in my opinion, and everyone that's ever had a huge back is trained with these. So I like to wind it through so that the goes through the loop. You pass the loop to the front of your palm on the pinky side and bring the strap through on the pinky side. So you can wind it on from over the top on the bar every time. Twist it round with your fingers and then tighten it like this. So twist forwards to get it tighter and grip on each time you twist until the whole thing's tight enough. And then you got a really good grip on any kind of bar for any kind of back exercise. The more you do it, it's a bit fiddly. I see beginners find it really fiddly, but this is how quickly you can do it once you get used to it. Just that. And that's just with there's different types of wrist straps. That's how you do it with just the most basic ones that you'll find anywhere, and I've always found that perfectly adequate. Set 3. Let's get a back off set going on, and then we'll find something else. I like a good back off set, just to make sure that on my last set I get more quality, high quality contractions and greater range of motion. And it's part of the reason why I typically will train 4 sets unless I'm going extra heavy. It's kind of like, we could debate all day long about what's more important out of the load that you're holding versus the range of motion and the form. And I sort of think, well, if you do a pyramid or a reverse pyramid or just a back off set on the end, you can have it all. So with my 4 sets on most of my exercises, I do have it all. I'll have 1 or 2 sets a bit heavier and just go full intensity with it, and then maybe there was 1 warm-up in front where I still went to failure, but it was better range of motion, better contraction of the muscle, or the same kind of thing with the 4th set as a back off set. And I'm not worried about what's more effective because I'm doing both with pretty much every single exercise, pretty much every single day. And let's move it on. I'm moving on now to the pull down angle. So could have done bodyweight pull-ups, but I'm a bit heavy for that now. The lat pull down has been in use, so I'm going to use the weight assisted pull-up. And as I am 21 stone at the moment, putting all the resistance of help on to counterbalance me there is still going to put me in the desired rep range. So I always warn against these kind of things for people whose strength goal or aspiration in general for functional strength is to be able to do bodyweight pull-ups. I feel that negatives and static holds will get you there a lot quicker, so I advise against this sort of thing. But for hypertrophy, resistance at that angle for the desired rep range is perfectly fine, and so this machine is going to be fine for me today, and it'll give me another angle that's a little bit more the lats and a completely different angle to the high row that we was just doing. I've always had a really strong connection with my back and always wanted to be able to do proper bodyweight pull-ups. So I've spent a lot of time on this kind of exercise over the years. And always make sure you step out of this thing before you bring the assistant's weight stack back up if you don't want an accident. This is the Cybex one here, and I've had no problems, but some of these machines all differ. You have to be careful with each one. I've only used it before, so some come with a knee pad that comes down and resistance is pushed through your knees while you're kneeling down on it, as opposed to the standing. I prefer the standing. I actually always wanted to learn pull-ups from being a young kid because I saw a guy when I was on holiday on a beach where they had a pull-up bar just doing them, and I could sort of just see like all the muscles in the back moving as he was doing proper wide grip pull-ups, like really quick, no problem. I actually thought, wow, damn, that's cool, I'd love to be able to do that someday. So I worked towards it, and I found in my late teens that I could do bodyweight pull-ups like pretty easy after a bit of practice. I've taught many people how to do them over the years, and I still find them really satisfying. I'm just altogether too heavy for it in this massive off-season, up to 300 pounds that I'm rapidly approaching. And so for me to get in that kind of 8 to 12 rep range that I usually go for on upper body, it makes more sense for me to use the assisted pull-up machine with set 2 now. Let's go set 3. I really like filming some of these from a bit further away. Just give you more of a view around my main gyms. If you did want to see all of this gym, this is Zone in Wood Green. If you go back a couple of weeks to the chest day and gym tour video, just a couple of weeks ago, you can see at the end of that video a full tour of this place when it was pretty much empty. You can see all the equipment that they've got here, which is extremely extensive. It's been a really good place for looking after people, coaching people, my own competition preps, everything like that. Last set on the pull-ups. See how I climb in and out of this thing from that. It's a pretty standard machine though. All the stuff they've got here is reputable manufacturers, Life Fitness, Cybex, Hammer Strength, Vivanco, wall-to-wall iron jungle here. So I'm moving on to the next exercise now, and it's a good opportunity to talk a little bit more about exercise programming for a muscle group. So with a bigger muscle group like back, if you don't want to think in terms of the anatomy and the function of all the different particular muscles in the back, a good way of thinking about it and organising your training sessions is to think about different angles, and that avoids complete duplication of the same areas of the muscle group, the particular muscles within that body part area. So we talk about the lats, the trapezius, the rear delts, the rhomboids, infraspinatus, teres major, teres minor, but you know, you can lose track of a lot of that. You think about a complex muscle group like the back. So instead, if you're newer to this and just want productive workouts with multiple exercises by muscle group, you can think in terms of different angles instead, and then you'll cover all of those particular muscles that I mentioned. So with this workout, we have that kind of angle with the T-bar row. We have this kind of angle with the high rows, the second exercise, then this angle with the assisted pull-up there. So moving on now, we're getting that angle, which is a little bit different to the T-bar rowing angle. We're getting this one here. So good choices for that kind of angle here. Cable rows. It's kind of similar to barbell rows. You get a little bit more upper back and that kind of angle as opposed to that angle when you do T-bar rows rather than barbell rows. But barbell rows and cable rows are quite interchangeable, but you're using more supporting muscles around your torso for the barbell rows, whereas you're sat down and it's more just the back muscles for a cable row. But that kind of angle that those exercises sit in, that angle there, as the cable row is busy, I can use this particular machine. So we've got this Cybex dual access row rear delt machine, and we're using the row here. And as I've had quite a lot of practice on this sort of thing, I put the full stack on from my very first set. And you'll see that this is a slightly different angle to everything that we've done so far, and something quite similar to a cable row or barbell row in its setup. So when you categorize all the different exercises by angles like that, you have these different categories where you pick one exercise from each category for that muscle group workout, but not have two from the same category where each category is an angle. I'll have more to say breaking this down in other videos, but I hope that gives you a rough idea of what kind of exercises to pick to get the right variety in exercising the entirety of a big muscle group like the back. So I'll stop battling on now and work hard again. Something I find with this particular machine is I have to put this really far back to not have the weights hit the stack at the bottom of each eccentric movement of the exercise. So it involves a little bit of leaning forwards and a little bit awkward to put it down again, but it means I keep the tension on through the whole set for all of its reps each time. I'll hit that again just the same. Okay, and time for the back offsets. I'm struggling with 8 reps there. pretty tough. Number 3, push for more reps now, every set's a failure. Here we go. Next unique angle with this back training here is going to be the pullover angle. So it's where the arms come down in an arcing motion as opposed to straight back. So this arc here. Your options for that could include the pullover machine. We've got one of those here, but it's out of order and I don't fit in it anymore. Another option for that kind of motion, but a different part of the motion, is a dumbbell pullover on the bench. That kind of brings in the chest a little bit more. But the third option that we're going to use today is the rope straight arm pull down, and your arms come back in that kind of arc there. I haven't actually used it on this pulley set yet, but the other one's in use, so let's see how I get on. That's pretty good, and I do like it with the longer rope because I find that it's easier to get your hands further back and more contraction in each rep. With 14 reps or so there, I can go one heavier, but this is not so much an exercise where you're smashing it for heavy weights like you would do with barbell rows or weighted pull-ups, that kind of thing for back. Set 2 now. I've actually put it down a notch. With some of my exercises I'm strict on form, and some of them I'm more sloppy on it and go for heavy weight, and I feel this kind of exercise lends itself to being careful and concentrating on the contraction of the lats. But then other more broadly speaking, I'd say my compound exercises, I'm less on form and more on intensity and shifting heavy weight. And then my particular isolations, like particular things for quads, hamstrings, the lats in this case, everything in the arms, I'm a little bit more particular about my form in most cases with most exercises. So I've taken it back down, so I was swinging about on that second set a bit there. I'll be a little bit more careful for set 3 now. And last one. Now, I would expect this to be the perfect time to see what's going on with my back here, because that was a heavy workout, and I do feel the back has become a bit of a strong point. Sweet. Yep, happy with that. Heavy workout. I'll put it away now. I'm absolutely drenched with sweat from that one. That was a proper session I was quite looking forward to. So that brings me to the end of today's workout, and I'm really happy with that. Getting a little bit heavier on those landmine T-bar rows, which I love, and I find I'm best on if I do first off in my routine. So I have certain exercises that I switch in and out for doing very first to see how much further I can push with the weight that I'm using. But that all went really nicely and was also heavier than I expected on the high rows. So it's all good progression for me there. And I think I've really got things back on track training wise the last couple of sessions. Just really need to sort out how much food I can hold down, and as I have mentioned before, I'm optimizing my sleep with that sleep study that I participated in. So every part of the process is being examined and improved, and it's still probably training that's my favourite. That's generally how people get into all of this, but I don't want the videos to be just about training, because it is only part of the puzzle, and I want my videos to be comprehensive and a real great library of everything in the months and years to come. So I thought I'd take some of the opportunities after the training sessions to talk about different topics that are not strictly training related, as I find myself talking mainly about the training as I'm going through it, which is quite natural to me. But I thought today I'd talk a little bit about genetics and bodybuilding, which suits me well on a day like today, as I've found back generally developed quicker for me than other body part areas. And most people find that when they start training, that something develops faster than the rest of it, and they notice that genetically they're better in some areas than others. But I think genetics is much broader than that. We talk about great genetics, but I think there's several different components to it that encompass the entire mind and body, really, as kind of esoteric as that sounds. I think that from a pure kind of body perspective and bodybuilding genetics, the different components of it would be bone structure. So the bodybuilding bone structure that we perceive as ideal is more kind of wide clavicles up top, narrow hip structure, small joints, which makes the muscles look bigger and fuller and rounder in proportion to those joints, because obviously everything in bodybuilding is just how it appears from top to toe at a distance. And it's about ratios and perspective, not about absolute measurements. So, you know, a 20-inch arm will look very, very different in its size on different frames and different heights of people, or in comparison to the other muscles there. So when we're talking bone structure, it tends to be that kind of wide clavicles, narrow hips and small joints, and then all of the bones of the limbs in ideal proportions and not longer, relatively speaking, in one area than another. Trying to idealise these things goes all the way back. You look at something like Michelangelo's Vitruvian Man, who'd taken all of the models and tried to come up with an ideal that was the average or golden mean of all of those body types be put into ideal ratios. It's similar with bodybuilding and what the ideal ratios from a bodybuilding like standpoint would be. But that's where it sits in terms of bone structure. And then something that's genetically unalterable is the actual attachment and insertion of all of the different muscles. So they sometimes call that having full muscle bellies, where the attachment, well, the insertion at the end of every muscle is as long, as far away. There's no short insertions that leave muscles looking small. So there's the greatest room of the whole muscle to be filled out once training and development starts. But those kind of origins and insertions of all the muscles are genetically determined and can't change. So that'd be another huge factor of genetics. Then related to the muscles themselves, you've got the ratio and number of fast twitch and slow twitch fibers, with the fast twitch fibers having the most potential for growth in size. Would mean that someone who genetically has more fast twitch fibers in muscles that are full muscle bellied, long insertions, would be the ideal combination for the muscles looking perfect. And then you put that on top of the ideal frame in terms of bone structure that I've just described, and that would be kind of the most pure physical genetics of ideal bodybuilding. Then other physical components of it would be their tolerance of high quantities of food, so the strength and durability of the entire digestive system, the strength and durability of the entire circulatory system. So you're going to depend on these things to keep feeding it, to keep the growth going, and then obviously their kind of resilience to the toxicity of certain compounds that would be necessary for the advanced development of all of those muscles. So you put all of that together and you've got the physical components of pure idealized bodybuilding genetics: really strong digestive system, resilience to toxicity of certain compounds, a strong respiratory system, perfect frame, perfect muscles. But it's not just the physical side of genetics that affects this whole thing, because you may have all of those physical potentialities or physical blessings, but they won't look like bodybuilding until you've done the work that's necessary to capitalize on them. But actually doing the work is more of a mental and personality type thing. So I'd say that the genetics of a personality type, or the mind, like for bodybuilding, would include a kind of perseverance, kind of strong-willed to do it, perhaps being somewhat of a creature of habit as the kind of actions necessary to achieve potential are very, very monotonous and quite repetitious. And so someone that has the capacity for being patient, in their kind of temperament and personality type, if they have the kind of inclination towards being a creature of habit and persevering and delayed gratification, that would be the kind of personality attributes that would be necessary, the mental characteristics of ideal genetics for bodybuilding, along with kind of pain tolerance, kind of bloody-mindedness to push through pain and difficulties when it comes to the last reps of certain sets, or discomfort with all other aspects of supplementation and eating that you have to do to actually achieve a high level in all of this. So yeah, a lot of genetically determined or influenced factors go into ideal bodybuilding, and it's not just the body, it's every system of the body, and also aspects of the personality and the mind. So those are my thoughts on that, and I think sometimes when we talk about bodybuilding genetics, we don't consider all of those aspects, but they're all absolutely vital. And when you see the best of the best, they've kind of got every base of that covered. When we talk about champion mindsets and like self-belief and perseverance, they're all the mental side of it. So someone that is physically a genetic ideal specimen for bodybuilding, like Ronnie Coleman, he still had to have those personality attributes, mental attributes that you could argue are genetically determined to actually realise the physical side of his potential. And I find all of it fascinating, but I think rather than go on about it all day, I should wrap it up now, and I am very hungry, and I'm a creature of habit when it comes to my post-workout meals. So I'm going to move along now, feed myself up, and be ready for more hard training as soon as possible. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing if you want to learn all aspects of bodybuilding and see my training on this massive bulking journey, and have a great week. Cheers.